Hi there, welcome back to your favorite deep dive show on stories contemporary and consequential for India. This week I bring to you three stories, three perspectives, connecting the dots in a manner that you would have otherwise missed in the headlines. First up, how your grocery purchases are proof that humanity is still going strong, that the AI tide is not extinguishing the flame of civilization anytime soon, that bots are not replacing humans in near future. Wait for the segment. Second, the Rashtrapati Bhavan provided a moment to dip into the past to project into the future by installing the statue of freedom stalwart C. Rajagopalachari in the president's house last week. I use that to weave an ideology narrative that can steer us into Viksit Bharat curve. And finally, India is at the cusp of eliminating the scourge of left-wing extremism with the last of the guerrillas surrendering this week. We unspool with pictures and data. Let's get going. Last week was all about AI, and more AI. Artificial intelligence hogged headlines both at home and abroad, what with the Global AI Impact Summit in New Delhi. If I could paraphrase an Amitabh Bachchan dialogue from the 1970s, you were alive if you could walk AI, talk AI, and laugh AI. Because AI is, well, not so funny anymore. But before I digress, let's introduce the theme of this segment. So while the headlines give an impression that humanity stands at a civilizational cusp and that its very existence is threatened, an interesting and reassuring development happened on the side. Amazon, the US-based e-commerce behemoth, beat Walmart, another US-based offline retail behemoth, to become the biggest company in the world by revenue. At $717 billion, Amazon edged past Walmart's $713 billion top line for the financial year 2025, pushing the latter to number 2 on that metric for the first time since 2009. Now there's a story in this. While the world grapples with existential anxieties of whether robots are coming to throw us humans into the ocean or make us extinct, the fact of the matter is that the world's biggest sales volumes last 17 years were in the grocery space and not information technology. Isn't it a reassuring thought that potato chips still sell more than silicon chips? That cola is still one up over code? If you go by the social media angst, you would believe otherwise. And like most anxieties, it turns out it's more in the mind than on the ground. So relax and understand this perspective. For long, Amazon has been the largest online retailer by revenue, even as Walmart retained that title offline, like physical sales at stores. If you have traveled to America, you know Walmart is huge. Like so many things from the American century, it's a cultural as much as an economic phenomenon. But in 2025, the overall top line also tilted in favor of Amazon. Now there's a caveat. Amazon sales include digital services like cloud, while Walmart is pure goods play. But let's focus on the theme, which is that amid all the crazy cacophony around artificial intelligence, is the bread and pasta, butter and milk sales that are still fueling humanity. Isn't it sanity-giving perspective? Hello, humanity is alive and kicking. We are still breathing oxygen, eating bread and pasta or dal roti. Does not matter you saunter into a physical kirane wala or order online. But Earth is still a physical world and not a software park. That code has not taken over brains. And robots are not replacing flesh and blood humans anytime soon. Walmart had held the crown as the largest company by revenue since 2009 and been either number 1 or 2 since the year 2000. Before that, for 3 decades, it was either ExxonMobil or General Motors at the topmost companies in the Fortune 500 list. Going by top 10 list for 2024, the number 1 and 2 spots are taken by grocers, Walmart and Amazon. 4 are healthcare corporations. Of the rest 4, 2 are from the world of big tech Apple and Alphabet, while one from finance and investment, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. Only ExxonMobil hangs in from the old economy. Another interesting feature, all 10 are American corporations, which is indicative enough of the fact that capitalism is alive and kicking in the United States. But that's a different story for later. Continuing with our theme in the present, even though displaced to number 2 at $713 billion, it's Walmart's highest revenue in history. More importantly, the figure beat market estimates, and at 4.7%, the growth rate beat Wall Street expectations. The share price at an all-time high, and the market capitalization of Walmart breached the US $1 trillion mark recently, breaking into an elite club reserved only for the Silicon Valley big tech companies. So it's not a story of a winner against a loser, but one winner surpassing another winner. Walmart has 10,000 retail stores, but it is spreading fast in the online space, just as Amazon is online first, but trying to become an omni-channel company with physical stores across the United States and the rest of the world. Both might be leveraging tech, including artificial intelligence, to run better business in the back end. But one of the most consequential business rivalries of this century packs a reassuring theme: the flesh and blood humanity over transformer robots. Insofar as America is concerned, there's a certain profile of consumers that gravitates towards the Walmart stores. The middle-class households that need to keep savings in mind. That's another reassuring thought. Human impulses are alive and kicking. Relax, sit back, and enjoy the next reel on AI taking over with a pinch of salt. Moving to the next one. This week marked an important event on the ideological front insofar as the modern nation-building project of India, that is Bharat, is concerned. President Draupadi Murmu unveiled a bust of independent India's first and only Indian Governor-General Chakravarti Rajagopalachari, fondly called Rajaji, at the historic central courtyard of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. The bust replaced the one of Edwin Lutyens, the man credited with the architecture of colonial central Delhi, or Lutyens Delhi as it has been called to this day. Complete with the Rashtrapati Bhavan, its Raisina Hill buildings, the Parliament complex, the north and south blocks, and the official bungalow zone around the hexagon roads that surround the seat of the union government in Delhi. This is how Prime Minister Modi described the occasion in his monthly fireside chat, the Man Ki Baat address.
राष्ट्रपति भवन में राजाजी उत्सव मनाया जाएगा। इस अवसर पर राष्ट्रपति भवन के केंद्रीय प्रांगण में श्री राजगोपालाचारी जी की प्रतिमा का अनावरण किया जाएगा। ब्रिटिश आर्किटेक्ट एडविन लुटियंस की प्रतिमा भी राष्ट्रपति भवन में लगी हुई थी। अब इस प्रतिमा के स्थान पर राजाजी की प्रतिमा लगाई जाएगी।
The change was, of course, not liked by the descendants of Lutyens. His great-grandson, Matt Ridley, took to X to say he was sad to read of the development. Obviously so. Lutyens viewed his work on New Delhi, a project he co-produced with equally famous British architect Herbert Baker, as an enduring monument to imperial grandeur, imperial being the operative word. He once said while imagining the Delhi plan that while the Viceroy thought of the next 3 years only, he was thinking of the next 300. The British were, of course, gone much earlier. But what began as a geographical description for the area designed by Lutyens later evolved into a political moniker representing a particular type of people, the English-speaking, ruling elites of India, far removed from the hustle and bustle that rest of the country or even rest of Delhi was, compared to the leafy neighborhoods of the Lutyens Delhi. Till recently, that is. The replacement of the Lutyens bust with that of Rajaji is part of an ongoing project imagined by the Prime Minister a few years ago to shed the vestiges of the colonial mindset. Inside the Rashtrapati Bhavan itself, many changes have taken place already. One example, a Paramveer Dirgha has been created, a gallery of all of India's Paramveer Chakra awardees since independence, replacing portraits of British officers who adorned the walls earlier, replacing memories of imperial authority with the stories of Indian courage and valor. And why not? If putting up a bust or portrait at a public place is an act of honoring the memory of those figures, then at Indian public places, why not Indian heroes? Outside, the road that leads out of the Rashtrapati Bhavan to India Gate down the Raisina Hill was renamed Kartavya Path in 2022. The north and south blocks, Lutyens buildings, are turning into museums, even as government offices that they housed have moved to the Kartavya Bhavans along the erstwhile Rajpath. This past week, even the Prime Minister's office moved out of the South Block to Seva Tirth near Sena Bhavan. But Rajaji bust represents in many ways the more substantive transition from the old that Prime Minister has been attempting. As he recalled in his letter to the President on the occasion, Rajaji believed in the innate capability of common masses to write their destiny free from the clutches of the license quota permit Raj, a phrase he had coined to represent the socialist India of Nehruvian conception. Rajaji was the original rebel. He quit the Congress in 1944 over the Quit India issue. He quit the Congress again, this time as the Home Minister in the Nehru cabinet in 1951, over the issue of Nehru's failure to see China's nefarious designs over NEFA. Mahatma Gandhi had called him his conscience keeper for the principled positions he could take even if it risked going against the grain of prevalent wisdom or understanding. That explained why he could see Jinnah and his Muslim League getting stronger due to Congresses quit India, for example. Or he could make Hindi compulsory as the Chief Minister of Madras State, even as he would emphasize Hindi as being a foreign language as much as English, but one that Tamils should learn nevertheless. His pictures with those dark glasses capture his swag in that day and age. Rajaji was a literary giant, bestowed the Sahitya Academy Award in 1959 for his translations and commentaries of the Ramayana and Mahabharata. A statesman, a freedom fighter, and more importantly, a principled dissenter. Even Nehru had to give him a Bharat Ratna. Perhaps the first contemporary leader of the freedom struggle who sought to internalize Gandhi's values and teachings, at the same time worked to make them practical on the ground rather than follow them blindly, reconciling them with the imperatives of a modern nation-state building project, unlike a Nehru who completely pivoted away from them once the Mahatma was gone. A liberal who did not forget his roots, unlike Nehru, who was so influenced by Fabian socialism that he imposed Soviet models lock, stock, barrel, much to the detriment of India's growth trajectory, throttling the spirit of enterprise in the early decades of independence. Rajaji could marry liberal secularism with India's theological moorings, free economy with civic responsibility, realistic patriotism with practical internationalism. Ideological dogma was not for him. When he finally quit the Nehru cabinet and went on his own, he set up what can be called independent India's only truly liberal political party, the Swatantra Party. The classic liberal bent of Swatantra was in clear contrast to deeply socialist Congress under Nehru and Indira, which by the time of Sonia became crimson red, and Rahul a clear case of poppy green. Others, part of the founding team of Swatantra, K.M. Munshi, N.G. Ranga, Meenu Masani, were all former Congress leaders and stalwarts frustrated at the suffocation of the liberal spirit and throttling of private capital in the country. Rajaji was the first major proponent of minimum government intervention in the functioning of the economy at a time when socialism dominated public discourse. He was one of the first public advocates for market economics dipped in the spirit of private enterprise and reasonable restrictions. Pandit Nehru derided Swatantra as being a rich man's club, party for the medieval lords, princes, and zamindars. But how successful Swatantra became in challenging Nehru and Indira's economic policies can be gauged from the fact that it became the principal opposition party cornering 44 Lok Sabha seats in the 1969 general elections. That, of course, triggered the go for broke pivoting to economic povertarianism of Indira's Garibi Hatao years. And that's where this transition, this change, this replacement of Lutyens' statue with Rajaji at the Rashtrapati Bhavan gains future salience. Today, Prime Minister talks of minimum government, maximum governance. The economic discourse has shifted to private capital and enterprise in driver's seat. We are a startup nation of youth raring to have a go at capital formation. For India of the future, Rajaji is a better guiding light than Nehru perhaps. For the Viksit Bharat of 2047, ideas of a state playing a backseat facilitator role rather than in the driver's seat is going to uncork better energies for the task of nation building. Swatantra leaders, including Rajaji, anticipated a two-front war situation with China and Pakistan decades ago and advised Nehru and later Indira of jettisoning the non-aligned movement and mending fences with the West. They espoused a classical liberal agenda of free markets, individualism, and a democratic polity. All the ideas that India needs to pursue, and the Modi government is pursuing in some measure. From strategic autonomy to multi-alignment, from pivoting with Europe to engaging with China, from Atmanirbharta through manufacturing to making sure Trump does not wreck long-term natural alliance with the United States, to assisting private enterprise by deregulation and removing the license permit Raj that Rajaji so hated. All this would go a long way in building the India of 2047. Let's make his bust at the Rashtrapati Bhavan a guiding light for that project. Moving to the last segment. This is bulldozer justice being meted out to the scourge of Maoism that has plagued some parts of India for decades. These pictures were released by CRPF DG G.P. Singh last week, who through his post underscored the resolve of the government to finish the menace soon. This is an interesting video. It shows forces demolishing a memorial for some Maoist leader who might have perished in clashes with the security forces. But given the kind of writ these outlaws have had in forest and tribal areas of central India for 4 decades, they had the temerity to build a memorial right inside a village. Well, no more. Singh in his post said, and I quote, "Brick by brick, we would destroy the idea and its manifestation in each and every form," unquote. Over 100 such memorials have been destroyed in the last couple of years. The figure for the last 5 years stands at over 200. These memorials were used by Maoists as instruments to maintain fear, dominance, and ideological control within local communities. The armed guerrillas would come in battalions, surround the village, build these structures, and instill such fear among the residents that those would become public squares, a symbol of red influence. Since the state was missing or is still not there, the villagers would be scared of offending the lurking guerrilla army lest they get targeted, which would happen often. Even on mere suspicion that somebody in the village had passed on information to the security forces or administration, execution would happen right there next to the memorials. The removal of memorials, 200 plus at last count, sends a clear message that the writ of the state and rule of law is clawing back into the villages and hamlets of the region from Chhattisgarh to Jharkhand to Odisha to Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. It was a conscious decision taken to end the ideological influence of Maoism and to strengthen the process of restoring normalcy in the region. This, of course, has been done parallelly with reinforcing governance metrics like roads, schools, hospitals, communication, water, and sanitation. Mainstreaming of the tribal communities with an infra push was integral to the project of making India Naxalism and Maoism free by the March 2026 deadline set by Union Home Minister Amit Shah. Since the project was unleashed, security forces have eliminated over 500 Maoists in direct ambush, while hundreds of others have surrendered. Home Ministry records show 219 Maoist cadres killed in 2024, while another 285 met with the same fate in 2025. What changed the game, however, was the killing of CPI Maoist chief Nambala Keshav Rao or Basavaraju in May last year in the jungles of Abujmand in Chhattisgarh. He was the key conspirator and executor of the 2013 Jiram Ghati massacre that wiped out the entire Congress party leadership of the state at that time, killing 32 persons, including security personnel. Imagine, despite such an act of terrorism, he survived for a good decade and a half before the Modi government decided enough was enough. Security forces attained big success in quick succession when they cornered and killed Battalion 1 Commander Madhvi Hidma in November. As the head of the dreaded guerrilla unit, Hidma had overseen killing of 260 security personnel and 81 civilians. He was liquidated on November 18 last year in the jungles of Andhra Pradesh. This is when the surrender spree picked pace, with cadres realizing they were in no position to withstand the resolve of the state this time. This week saw Thipiri Tirupati, alias Devuji, give up arms before the Telangana police, delivering a deadly blow to the insurgents in Telangana-Odisha-Chhattisgarh border, where he was active for a decade and more. He was the chief of the Central Military Commission and is rumored to have taken over as General Secretary of the Maoist Party after the encounter of Basavaraju last year. Just to give you an idea of how it works. As soon as word spread of Devuji's surrender, more than 300 Maoists have given up arms from Chhattisgarh to Telangana in the last week alone. The Ides of March do not look good for the communist guerrillas in the country. And why not? This is one achievement for which we should be proud of our police forces. Thanks for watching.